By the way, this is a cool title. It's not going to make sense till we get to the end, but I'm just going to let you know. It's a cool title. All right. And 20th century. Also 21st century, by the way. So we're just going to have a conversation, the three of us, about some things. I don't have a specific place to go, but I do want to show you a couple of slides that I think are interesting. We're going to talk about immigration today. So first off, can we go to okay, hang on. Whoa. Yo. Wait, hang on. Gentlemen. Hey, so listen. It's really nice out. Spring finally arrived. Am I right, gentlemen? Spring finally arrived. It's been really brutal. Been really cold here. It finally got warm. It's sunny out. What that means is that there's just more energy in here. So, as a sociologist, there's a lot of invisible factors and forces that shape group behavior that we can't see. And so one of the things that shapes group behavior, and not individual behavior, but it's group behavior, because it's lots of individuals doing things that they would not ordinarily do, but for the invisible factors and forces. And so one is that in the springtime, the first couple days of warm weather after a really long winter, it's really difficult for people to not talk and not engage and so on. So I just want to just do your best. It's a cool class. Okay. Introduce yourselves, and then I'm going to say a couple things.
My name's Vion Kinkeshwar. I'm a freshman.
Well, you're a freshman?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm doing cybersecurity.
Wait, hold the mic close, man.
I'm doing. Should I say anything else?
Yeah, cybersecurity?
Yeah, I'm doing cybersecurity.
Where are you from?
I'm from Philly.
What's your tattoo? A dragon?
Nah, it's actually a Hindu tattoo. Yeah, it's religious.
Yeah? Dude, can you zoom in on his tattoo? It's like, it's pretty cool. All right, man.
Okay. All right.
All right, bro.
All right. Yeah.
What's up, everybody? My name's Trip. I'm a journalism student from Arlington, Virginia, and I'm happy to be here.
Dude, you really happy. You were from the other day. You did time in a...
Yeah, I am happy to be here. I shared last class. I went to a diversion program, which I'd like to think it doesn't define me, but it's a part of who I am.
That's part of who you are, man. And here you are. So it worked, right? Sometimes
I'm the 1%. Yeah.
People get into trouble and they get rehabilitated, and here they are. And look at you, man. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, listen. No, actually. Wait, do you deserve applause?
I mean, it makes me uncomfortable. I'd clap for, the friends I've made who have rehabilitated themselves. I actually went when I was incredibly young, so I attribute most of the poor decisions I was making to just being young and dumb. I mean, I wouldn't decide on half of those things if I had the choice today.
Yeah, but here's the thing that's also important, is that when you're young and dumb, you're also more likely to do things that lead you down a path that from which you cannot return. And so that's really important. So for me, really, the fact that you did that and you really did the work you needed to do, and here you are, man, like doing your thing. For me, I think it's really cool, and it's really valuable, for parents to not give up hope on their kids, and the rest of us to not give up hope just on ourselves. And those of you who will have children, who will be like Trip right here, don't give up hope, man. It's good. So I want to give you an applause, man, personally. So here you are. All right, so listen, here's what I want to say a few things. First off, we're going to talk about immigration today. We have two different segments. These two gentlemen are going to talk, and then we're going to have a different conversation. And what I want you to really understand is immigration is a global phenomenon, okay? Like when you're in a place like the United States, or when you're in Europe, or you're just somewhere that's experiencing a lot of just migration, we have the idea that it really only affects those particular areas, but it's a worldwide thing, and most immigrants around the world are Christians. So I just say that because, in this country anyway, we have this idea that, they're foreigners, and I just want to make a point, if I could, that for Christians, whatever you think about immigration, Jesus loves them as much as Jesus loves you. All right? Can I just say that? So these are your brothers in Christ and sisters in Christ, who many people are really looking to start up a new life. So WWJD. All right, man. Anyway, I just wanted to say that because I thought that was really interesting. The second thing, next slide. This is kind of, the Gallup does a poll around the world every year. They interview hundreds of thousands of people all over the world to try to get a sense of how many people really would pick up and leave and go somewhere else. It takes a lot to just pick up and go somewhere else. Now a little less so because we have these cell phones and we have the web that we can more keep in touch with. But, it takes a lot, man. And so they interview people every few years, and it has remained steady at about 900 million people say that they would pick up their lives and they would go somewhere else and start all over again. And then they ask, where would you go? And there are a long list of countries that people would go to, because these are people all over the world, right? And about 160 million of them say their first choice would be the United States. So what that means is you got 740 million of them who are saying, yeah, I want to leave, but my first choice wouldn't be the United States. And I think that's really important because a lot of people here in the U.S. have this idea that everybody wants to come here, and of course everyone wants to come here, and this is the greatest land and the most important place, and so people want to come, and that's really not the case, because there are already migration flows to other places. So, and by the way, Saudis, 3% to Saudi Arabia, man, go Saudi. All right, does this surprise you at all? By the way, either of you?
I feel like it should have been. I feel like I would have thought it would be a lot higher, like the percentage of people that would want to go to the U.S. Because I feel like it's just like all you hear about is people coming here, basically.
Yeah, people coming here. But if you're in Australia or Germany or Saudi Arabia, you hear about the people that want to go there. So that's why I bring this up. Yeah, I think it does seem kind of notable, actually. Huh. Anything stands out for you, bro?
Yeah, you noted how year over year it stays around 900 million. I think that's a interesting figure. That's like about 1/7 of the world's population.
Yeah.
I'm really curious how much of that is like directly tied to class. Like how many of these people are like where they lie in their home countries, like economic hierarchy.
Yeah. Well, all over the place, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and these figures, like, they're cool to look at, but they don't really surprise me. I actually have always wanted to move to Australia, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm the only person I've ever met who's thought that.
Too many things that can kill you.
Yeah,
in
lots of
Australia.
creepy crawlies there,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. No, it is. There's 8 billion people in the world and 900 million. So it's pretty. I don't know. It's very interesting. These are people who are wealthy and middle class and poor, you know. And people go and they don't go for a wide range of reasons. Let me show you another slide as we talk about this. 77% of Americans think that undocumented immigrants mostly do jobs that Americans don't want, that people don't want to do here, okay? And that's really mostly true around the world, the people who get into other countries illegally. And that 64% have the idea that legal immigrants are also mostly doing jobs that other people don't want. And so there's really not much to that, actually. The second one surprises me a little bit, but the first one, I'm surprised it's 77% because, first, undocumented people are mostly doing jobs that other nationalized people don't want to do. Okay, I just thought I'd throw that out there. All right, but listen, let's move on to a different. Let's go to the next slide. So, immigrants. Besides anything that we just said to the two of you, how are immigrants good for you? How are immigrants in this country, right? You're both U.S. citizens. How are immigrants good for you?
Living in the U.S., and I think this is the case for most countries as well, but I see immigration as a net positive. I've always been taught and have felt this as an experience that the U.S. is like a melting pot of different cultures and experiences, and I don't think it's a coincidence how the U.S. has, grown to become one of the most powerful countries in the world. I think it's because of all the shared intellect and cultural experience from people from all around the world working together. I think, when that works, it can be a beautiful thing. I also think a lot of the concern around illegal immigrants is a little unfounded because, we've already talked about this statistic in class, but illegal immigrants are, proportionally, they commit less crime, they pay into things like Social Security, they don't get any benefits from the government, so I think they're a net positive, honestly.
All right, let's go back. I wouldn't say they don't get anything from the government, but maybe we'll come back to that. Wait, is Vroom?
It's Vium.
Vium.
Yeah.
Yeah, Vium. How about you? Like, what was my question? How are immigrants good for you?
I was going to
Personally.
say, the more people that are coming to your country, I feel like that's always good. Like, you're going to have more jobs, more, like, your economy's going to be better.
So things are going to grow.
Yeah.
Like if your birth rate drops and immigration rates drop, it's like your economy is going to start to shrink.
Yeah.
You see that.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And also, I feel like there's a lot of immigrants that are in, like, important, like, jobs, like construction. And, like, without them, we just wouldn't have gotten to the size that we are today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, how about, do you experience that? Like, have you experienced it? Were your parents immigrants?
Yeah. My parents immigrated here, like, in the 90s. My dad was, like, early 90s, and then my mom came, like, around the year 2000.
And did they have their degrees?
Well, I think, my dad, I think one of them did get a degree in, like, computers or something, but, like, over here it wasn't, like, recognized.
Uh-huh.
So, my dad went to, like, a community college in New Jersey, I think.
Uh-huh.
And
then got a second degree.
Yeah.
Like it then started redoing the process here.
And then, he worked at, like, some, big software company in the 90s.
Uh-huh.
And then I think the both of them, my parents, they ran, like a Subway and a Papa John's together, and then eventually they sold that off, and now they just have, like, regular jobs in, like, computers.
Uh-huh. And how do immigrants interfere with your futures? Like, how do they get in the way? Because there's a lot of negativity about immigration and immigrants and so on. Like, how do you see them as being obstacles? Because you're here,
Yeah.
right? So it's not about
I guess a lot of people just worry that, like, immigrants sometimes get like, special, like, treatment, or, like, they get treated better.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I guess with like schools like having like a certain, or I don't know if they do it anymore, but like a certain percentage of people coming from like different ethnicities and stuff like that.
So, all right, so somehow immigrants will get treated better.
Yeah, that's.
So people have that idea.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that yourself?
I feel like immigrants are just everywhere. Like they're in the high class just as much as they are in the low class. I feel like it's not any different.
Bro, how about you, Trip?
Um,
By the way, is that your birth name, Trip?
It's not my legal name, but I've been called Trip since I was a baby. So, like,
Right.
you know, my legal name
It
is
didn't
Thomas.
have anything to do with any
no,
of the things
no,
you
I
were
didn't.
doing as
I
a
didn't.
teenager?
I didn't earn that name.
Alright,
Trip is a
alright.
Star Trek character, so that's
Alright,
my parents
okay,
are
alright.
nerds. I'm a nerd.
Alright.
What comes to mind when you ask how do immigrants get in the way of you, right?
Yeah, how do they get in your way? Like,
the-
so I want you to put yourself in the shoes of people who are like,
We're saying they're a problem.
yeah, we have too
right?
much, man.
Yeah,
What's
right. Okay, the only thing I can really think of is as long as people are willing to work for less, wages won't rise. And while I think, we pointed out how immigrants from, less well-off areas of the world are willing to do not great jobs and work for less, and that can be good for the economy. It can also create an inhospitable economic situation for a lot of other people because minimum wage is not going to go up if there are still people willing to work for $11 an hour, which isn't really a livable wage in a lot of places in the country.
Yeah, most places. So one is that as long as you have people that are willing to work for less, then that's a depressionary factor on wages. So it's like you said, and there's no reason to uplift workers in that way or whatever you have to do.
Right, and that has its upsides and its downsides, as we mentioned.
Yeah. Okay. It really is kind of a. I mean, it's funny how there's we're really in a period right now that's kind of anti-immigrant in lots of ways, and it's not direct, but all of this what we talked about last class of sending people back to their country. The way people going back to their, just all the conversations that are happening, it's just we've turned into kind of an anti-immigrant, anti-immigration time. So so we're just going to have this kind of conversation because it's really difficult to manage that. We just happen to be in that space at this point. All right, here. Let me go. Can you go to the next slide? Do you know what PISA is?
Oh, wait, yes. Yeah.
You have an idea?
Yeah.
The Program for International Student Assessment, right? When you look at those scores there, so this is math, science, reading combined. What do you guys see in those scores? Like what stands out for you?
Asian countries are wiping us down for sure.
What else? What else?
I mean, the United States is at the bottom of this group. I mean, it's not at the bottom, but it's not great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of just random to me. It looks like there's a lot like China, Singapore, all those like Oriental countries, I guess.
So listen, if you were wanting to build a country, well, how important is this? Math, science, and reading, man. These are people in high school, right? How important do the two of you think this is? If you were running a country, okay, how important is this?
I feel like it's very important because that's like the future of your government, the future of like all your technology, which is going to impact like all your trade and all that.
It's going to impact everything.
Yeah, mainly government. I feel like that's you need education the most for that.
So like how people are able to do in math, science, reading. It's really critical. Trip, how about you, man? What do you?
I feel the same way. I feel like people in charge of our country should be more concerned about things like this.
Or should be. Well, they are concerned about it. So
vocalize
they should
it more.
be concerned.
They should be concerned, right? Yeah.
So when you see that, though, as U.S. citizens, as Americans right here, you see that and you're like, huh, how do you feel about that?
I'm not surprised. I mean, the U.S. is middle of the pack in a lot of like quality of life statistics. We're middle of the pack in a lot of education statistics and studies. So I've been seeing research like that my whole life. It doesn't shock me. But a lot of people think the United States is the best. They hear that their whole life.
Okay.
This might be a surprise to them.
Okay, but we're not in the middle of the pack economically. Right. We're at the top economically. So how do you then make sense of that?
I feel like our population being as big as it is, like, it's not too big, like India or China. Well, I guess China has a strong economy too, but like we're not overstretching our resources, but we have so many people that like our economy is always going to be bringing in money, I feel like.
Yeah. So here's the thing, right? When I look at this, I think, if I were building a nation, I'd want kids. Like if I were admitting people into college, I was in charge of Penn State, our admissions process. Where am I going to pick my students?
You're going to pick students from Singapore, China, and Japan, for sure.
Taiwan, South Korea.
Yeah, right.
Because I want students to compete as much as they possibly can, right? So here, go to the next slide. So here you got, when I think about this, right, you got 1.4 billion people in China and 1.4 billion people in India, okay? And by the way, can you go back one? India is way toward the bottom of the list. But that doesn't mean that you don't have really, really brilliant people in India. It's just you have far more people taking the test, and you have education is so unequal in India that you have so many people that aren't able to do well. But go forward. So I'm thinking, man, if I'm running the show, I want to go poach as many people from all over the world and get them to come here. The best and the brightest. Like I want to bring them here. I don't want to, like you got a lot of smart people in the United States, right? But we are 340 million people in the US. And right there you got 2.8 billion people. So if I want to fill my university, if I have a university, I want to fill it up with the smartest of the 2.8 billion people just in those countries. Forget about Singapore and South Korea and so on, right?
If you really wanted to build the most competitive university, you would take the best students from every country, right? Because just because China is disproportionately, their students score better, that doesn't mean the top of the line Indian students aren't more capable than the middle of the pack Chinese students.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. That's right, man. It's just interesting to, for me to think globally in this way. Okay? So now, here, how would you as Americans, how would you benefit from poaching, going into countries and bringing the best and the brightest here? How would you benefit from that?
I feel like you always see this is kind of like random, just like kind of niche, but like with like computer chips and stuff, like there's like other countries and like other brands like making stuff before us. And if we're bringing in people from China, Japan, like all the technologically superior countries, I guess they could just help us.
Or technologically advanced country. I mean, we're like really also, in terms of a large country, at the top, but they would help us.
I'm talking about like how you always see like Japan's like discovering stuff before us. Like
or Korea. Yeah. Look at China right now, man. They're, like, holy smokes. Yeah. And then you benefit if you're, I don't know, you're not in the tech sector, but you're going to benefit because when the boats rise, when the GDP rises, all boats rise. So it's like the two of you are way better off being here in the U.S. than being in, I don't know, Nepal or Pakistan. I mean, because you're living in a country with a really high GDP that's really advanced, and so you're better off being here than in Pakistan, even if you're not really wealthy in the U.S.
I would say I don't know if I fully would benefit from, the average student and the United States becoming smarter, because then by comparison I would look less desirable to the employers I'm trying to get into the workforce with, but that wouldn't make me not want immigrants regardless.
All right, but listen, so what you're saying is if we do go and say, like, you know what, Penn State's like, all the universities around the U.S. are like, we got to bring in a lot more of these the smartest kids from around the world, and stop picking the average people from the United States. Because frankly speaking, when I look out over the room, and remember, I scored in the 51st percentile of the ACT, right, or whatever it is. My high school GPA was like 2.3, and my university GPA was 2.9. So I'm really I'm above average. I was in the 51st percentile, so I'm right, just barely made it over. But when I look out over here, I see a lot of really average people, man, who are here, who if we open up to students, the smartest students from all over the world, a lot of the folks here, the Americans, wouldn't be here because you wouldn't be able to compete. You wouldn't compete, and they would just like boot you out because they're just smarter than you are. They're hungrier than you are, and they're overall just better than you are. Better able to do this thing here. So what you're saying is, then I'd get the black boot, so to speak. So that wouldn't be good for you.
I'd have to start welding.
But you could make more money. What's your major? In journalism?
Journalism, yeah.
Dude, you'll make far more money
I
welding.
know.
What the hell? God, be a plumber, man. My plumber makes 6 figures, and you're going to be a dude, there is no journalism world. What are you going to do? It's Chat GPT, which the Chinese now have taught us that they do much better than us. So, like, go weld, my friend.
I've thought about it.
It's a very appealing pastime. All right, let me show you something here. All right, so immigrants have found that there's a huge percentage of the high-value tech companies. And $2 trillion, man, in 2023. $2 trillion contributed almost 10% of the GDP in the U.S. This is this sector of us going into these other countries around the world throughout the 20th century and into the 21st century. Remember, the title of the class is Winning in the 20th Century. We've been doing this, and then look where it got us, man. These phones, damn. The phones, the technology, it's just one thing after another, has been built largely with this force of immigrants that have come here. And it's really helped to make us one of the great leaders of the world. How is that, man? Am I wrong? Am I missing something, or what am I missing here?
I don't think you're missing anything. I mean, it's the tech sphere is incredibly important part of our economy, especially after the turn of the millennia. And I'm not surprised that it's been driven by immigrants, honestly. I mean, like our phones, they would cost $10,000 plus if we couldn't use our military might to secure advantageous deals in, parts of the world that produces microchips, things that, minerals.
Like in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, if we didn't have
right, which no one knows about or talks about, right.
And by the way, there's someone who watches the stream and is constantly haranguing me for not talking about that, but, so all of that. Bro, do you have any, does that strike you at all? Like, or how does that strike you? Because for me, let me just say this, right? For me, I just think, when I think immigration, it's what the both of you said earlier, but what you said earlier, it's just like immigrants, this is a nation of immigrants, and they've given us that. And somehow we just don't, I don't know that people fully understand that.
Yeah, I think it's impressive, obviously. It's just like, I don't think I really know enough about like the GDP and all that to really like understand how significant that is.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, $2 trillion is like an insane amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really comprehend that.
Well, the GDP is the value of all goods and services produced and consumed in a nation. So it's like the U.S. We have the world's largest GDP. We're flying, man. Here, let me go. Go to the next slide. All right, so here, from 2000 to 2015. About 178,000 STEM PhD graduates from U.S. universities, okay? So this is science and technology, engineering, math. 178,000, man. And look, 77% are still living in the U.S. Still, okay? That means that first off, these are graduate programs. So these are the best and the brightest who are coming from overseas to take PhDs in the STEM field. And then 3 out of 4 are staying here. That means they're taking everything they learn, the best and the brightest, right? And then they're taking everything they learn and they're putting it to work here for this GDP. And 90% of all Chinese nationals and 87% of Indian nationals, bro. Right here. In the STEM field. That's why when you go to see a medical doctor, you just see sing, Weaver, Smith, Singh. It's just saying Indian names, Rao, whatever. Dude, it's like, wait, what's your last name?
My last name's Kankeshwar.
Okay.
I don't think I know anybody else with that last name. So
Yeah, all right. So probably not, right? But dude, does it strike you sometimes? Like, this is why when you go, you take math class. Sorry, how's that strike you? Go ahead.
I mean, it just seems like a good deal. Even the people that leave, they're coming here and they're paying for their education most of the time, and
or they're
just
not,
seems like
or
a good
we're
deal.
paying for it. They're not.
Right.
Sometimes they're paying for it, but we're also, yeah. It does seem like a good deal, right? It seems really fascinating that we miss. In all this conversation about immigration, we miss how extremely valuable immigrants are and what they've done for the country, man. For this nation. It's incredible. It's really striking. Silicon Valley, man. It's Silicon Valley. It's all that. Okay? Okay, here, let me show you. Okay, go to the next slide. So listen. Few days ago, this Riley Moore from West Virginia introduced this bill that would immediately ban all Chinese nationals from the United States. Okay? Immediately ban. And we assume after Chinese nationals, it'll be Indians and Saudis and God knows what. Okay? So there are about 300,000 Chinese nationals studying in the United States, 2,400 at Penn State, undergrad and grad. Okay, so let's go back one. So let's look at this, right? Chinese nationals, 9 out of 10 of whom will likely stay in the U.S., okay? We've seen this from that period of time. It's going to be a little less now, actually. Now, go forward one. The best and the brightest in STEM areas, and then we're going to boot them out. Not let them come, actually. So what we're going to let them do, we're going to make them do. Now you got to stay in China, and so what we want you to do, Riley Moore, is saying, what I want you to do is, all you Chinese nationals, I want you to stay in China, get your education there. And then take all of your intellect that you develop and put it into the Chinese economy. Because we're bound and determined to help the Chinese economy leapfrog over the United States. Riley is. That's essentially what Riley is saying.
He would argue that.
Or she. Is it a she or a he?
I'm not sure.
Anyone know? All right, go ahead. I don't know.
I live, right over the border. I should know, but I don't. They would argue that, these people could be, Chinese agents spying on the U.S. or whatever rhetoric they want to use. But honestly, I think this helps China and hurts the U.S. more than anything else. So it's quite ironic to me. It's like shooting ourselves in our own foot.
And it helps China in what way?
I mean, the less able-minded, able-bodied, advanced workers that are leaving China and using their expertise and their studies over there and then becoming doctors, scientists, researchers in China helps China more than it helps the U.S. It's just
Yeah, it's kind of like because here, it's not like Americans are going to all jump into these. You might jump into these positions, but if you got some Chinese scholars who are far more qualified than you, they're going to just move forward in a way that's so much further than what you could move forward. And it's just going to slow everything down, man. It's kind of wild. Huh. It sounds to me, I mean, when I see this, when I think, I'm not trying to support China. Just thinking about supporting the United States, supporting the U.S., right, the economy here and so on, this is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen anybody propose. And I've seen politicians propose a lot of really dumb things, but this might be right near the top. Yeah. But right now, in these times of anti-immigration and so on, it gets, people will cheer. So
America first. That's what they'd argue. It's
yeah,
America
they would
first.
argue, and people would cheer for that. Like if Riley Moore went to a big political rally, then people listening to Riley Moore say something like this would cheer, and they really wouldn't have any idea what they're cheering about. But if they understood the nature of how things are unfolding and the way that I just showed all this information, people would have to stop and say, like, hang on, man, I'm not really sure this would be a really good idea. Riley Moore. Go ahead, man.
But I also want to suggest the flip side as well, because if you and your family have been living in States for, like 300 years now, right, you have a tradition of living in States, and now we have discussed that these people from China are potentially much more advanced than you are.
Yeah.
And to an extent, you may feel a bit cheated because you can't compete with these geniuses that are being imported from other countries, and you can't compete about it, but
you still feel
it's inevitably coming to you, and you, of course, like, you're going to feel frustrated, and there's enough demands of people who's voiced about those as well, and I feel like those voices are also worth considering, despite whatever statistics might say. Those people, their immediate living condition is to an extent being altered, and that's the complaint that they have.
Yeah. So go ahead, man. Yeah. No, that's a really good point. Yep.
That is 100% how people feel, and I totally agree, but I'd like to say this is free market capitalism, and I want to ask, what happened to picking yourself up by your bootstraps, not taking any government handouts, and just, working harder? That's what I want to know. Why don't these Americans work harder if these Chinese students are outpacing them?
Dude, or the Korean, can you go back to that list of the PISA scores? You got students in 17 countries are actually outpacing. I mean, not by a lot. When we get down to the Czech Republic and Poland and Denmark, it's really not that much. But nonetheless, man. So it's really an interesting thing that people want to draw on the free market, and they want to draw on all of the things. What you just said. They want to have this idea, except when it comes to them. And then it doesn't apply. But if we would not have been poaching the best and the brightest from all over the world, we would not have the GDP that we do.
Right, because looking at the numbers, just straight up looking at numbers and statistics doesn't really explain the idiosyncrasies that people really have to go through, and the complicated matters that also occurs as a result.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. Yep. For sure. It's fascinating. But you see how politics and personal desires can get in the way of really seeing something with great clarity. Because are you going to go to your voters and say, listen, I know you think your son or your daughter should have gotten that special fellowship in chemistry at Penn State University because you think your son or daughter is really smart. But the fact of the matter is there are thousands of brilliant potential graduate students coming out of China and Korea and Japan who are infinitely smarter than your daughter. And in order to build up this nation, what we want to do is we want to bring those people here and invest in them. And they will probably stay here anyway. They're probably going to stay here anyway, and they will contribute positively to the good standing of the United States throughout the world. I mean, that's what you would have to say as a politician. But no one wants to say that. That would be really hard. You're not going to get reelected saying that. So here we go. So what you all are doing, when I look out in this room right here, you know, what everybody is doing, you're competing against people all over the world without realizing that. Even though you see it as a personal issue, it's really a public issue. Yeah. Are there any questions from the stream, by the way? You got another one? All right. It's kind of wild, though.
I also want to ask, because we were talking about how 77 people think illegal immigrants want jobs that Americans don't want, right? But we automatically make this assumption that immigrants are poor by nature. What about the richer immigrants who come in, who really are basically quote unquote stealing what Americans could have gotten? You know, because they're basically almost as equally qualified as already existing Americans. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah. No, this is an issue. And also many of the people coming here already come from money anyway. That's why they have such high test scores.
Right, because like even as a Korean, right, I know back in the 90s and early 2000s, a lot of the Korean immigrants were searching opportunities, but a lot of the newer Korean immigrants are of wealthy status who I don't really want to say escape Korea, but like who use
who don't want to.
It's a different wave of immigrants.
Exactly. Yep, it's a different wave. Yeah, who want to sort of just be free from some of that, the stresses. Yeah. All right, Izzy, you got something? As a conservative, I take a strong position on allowing for easier path to citizenship through things like migrant work visas. Does this class see this as a majority position of the Trump administration? Yeah, I don't know. What do you think? What's the Trump? What are you getting from the Trump administration thus far about immigration?
This could be me in an echo chamber, but I like to consume my news through both avenues, and the only thing I've seen to make immigration easier is the implementation of the gold card, which is, you pay like $5 million to become a citizen.
So we want rich immigrants.
Right, that's not practical. I agree with Ian. I think if you want healthier immigration, if you want to cut down on illegal immigration, you fix the system that is broken. Immigration in this country is bloated, it's lengthy, it's confusing, it's a complete nightmare for anyone who's been through it.
Yeah, but how are you going to figure it? But it's going to be that way. Look, you've got, 160,000 people saying they would like to, 160 million who would say, like, yeah, but I would move there permanently.
Right,
it's going to be slow and blue.
But even when you're here, I mean, my aunt immigrated from Panama in the early 2000s, and it took her 11 years to become a citizen. At any point during those 11 years, it just takes too long. I mean, this is someone who's now working in the government, has a great position, has contributed to the economy and her community her whole life, and it's constant effort. Like, for anyone who doesn't know, I would please, a citizen can't take these tests and pass. Like, immigrants have to be smarter than us to get in. It's ridiculous.
Most people in this room, except the few people who have recently taken it, would not be able to pass the citizenship test. I take it a number of times.
I couldn't pass.
No, I passed, but just barely, actually, some of the questions. But do You know, Trump has very much been in support of bringing immigrants here to support the tech sector, very much so. So part of what is being heard coming out of the Trump administration, which is very anti-immigrant, is not what Trump has been talking about for the past 25 years, which is we need immigrants who have tech skills and so on to bolster the tech sector, which is kind of interesting that that message gets left behind when people start politicizing something that's so significant. Is there another question? How would the U.S. economy look like if all foreigners were out of the U.S. legally and illegally? What would China, Singapore, Korea economy look like? And said, yeah, that's a question. What would happen? Certainly if everyone who's ever migrated here in the past 30 or 40 years from these areas, I think it would look
It depends
very
how
different.
far you go back. I mean, this country could look really interesting if all foreigners were gone.
Yeah. Huh.
I think it would be a pretty big difference, actually, even if it was just like the last 20 years. I feel like that would make our population would be a lot smaller, and the further back you go, like it's gonna exponentially like just make our population get smaller. So I feel like the more you just let people just keep coming here, I guess it's just good for the country.
Yeah, so we've done a lot. I mean, there's a limit to it at some point, but yeah, it's really interesting. Do you have another question? Do you think if the U.S. education was improved with better teaching and facilities, Americans would need less immigration, and not need immigrants to fill high education jobs?
Yeah, I mean, just to answer that, like, the U.S. has some of the best education in the world. I mean, people come here to get our education, like, not to be nationalist about this, but it's just true. Like, I don't really know what you're saying here, right?
Yeah.
Like, people aren't coming here to steal our jobs for fun. They're coming here because our education is world class, and our job opportunities are world class.
Yeah, and there's world class, like the Indian Institute of Technology, right? Is like if you're Indian and you want to study engineering, and you get into a top engineering school in the U.S. or IIT, you're very likely to go to IIT because there are great schools everywhere. But this is the thing. Same in Korea. If you get into one of the Sky universities, you're liable to you're going to go to the Sky University instead of coming here. Not always, but you're going to lean in that direction. Hey, let me show you this next thing, and then I want to move to the next segment. Can you go to the next slide for me? Right after 1945, when we were really, making the first major, one of the late 20th century initiatives forward. And so this guy, Vannevar Bush, he was a science and technology advisor to the presidency, to the White House. And he said, you want to support science at public and private universities, and you want to support science at research institutes, and you want to take that knowledge and you want to apply it to the government and you want to apply it to industry, because science that comes out of universities is the most important thing for moving society forward. Trump has known this and supported this, and this is how we really won the 20th century. And we were winning the first part of the 21st century. But now, if we're not careful, things are going to start to fall apart unless we really understand what has been behind this amazing growth here. And I think that's one of the reasons for the class, right? Today, I just wanted to have a conversation about this because I really see how immigration has played such a critical role and how it gets politicized, and we really miss understanding the important things. But it sounds like the two of you already had the message. Like you already see that. You saw that. All right.
Yeah, my mom works in higher education. She hasn't her whole life, but she does now, and this is something that she, tries to stress to me, the importance of research. I mean, because universities aren't just to give people degrees and educate people. The other half of their functions, or however you want to split it up,
it's the backbone.
Right, the backbone. I mean, professors, you guys have ever had a professor who hates teaching? That's because teaching's not their only job, you know, like.
Well, yeah, and it's important, unless it's like sociology, and it's not that important for doing anything positive to the GDP. But, you know, it's fun, but, you know, it gets you here to go to your other classes. Yeah, it's really fascinating. So when you all are thinking, I think my message to you all is that when as you're thinking about immigration, and you're thinking about these other issues, and you're thinking about your future, and you're thinking about who you're competing with, and you're thinking about considering all these immigrants coming in and filling positions, there are a lot of very complicated benefits to everybody that are worth considering, like how this nation got built in the way that it did. It's pretty cool, actually. All right, man. Dude. Okay, we're good. Thanks. That's it, man. Yeah, thanks, man. All right, man. Jay. Hey, we have enough time. Is there anybody else, anybody from Korea who is not who has not volunteered and wants to come up, preferably a woman? Anybody want to come up with Jay? Volunteer today? Anybody? All right, dude. They're leaving you in the dust, my friend. It's all you. Hey, can you introduce yourself?
I'm a sophomore studying accounting and real estate at Sam의 College of Business. And my full name is Jae-bum, but you can just call me Jay if you want.
All right, Jay. And you're from Korea?
Yeah.
Why'd you come? So how come you didn't? Would you have gone to one of the Sky universities if you had gotten in?
No.
No? You want to come here?
No.
Why not?
Well, it's for me.
Can you explain what the Sky universities are, by the way?
Oh, it's really, those 3 universities are really, really, really prestigious colleges like Harvard and United States compared.
It's like
so
Harvard, Yale, Princeton,
yeah,
but
yeah.
more so.
Yeah. So, yeah, for me it's kind of impossible for me to get into those.
Why? Because you were a slacker?
Probably, yeah.
So you come to the U.S.?
But that's not the only reason, but I always wanted to come to the U.S. and then study abroad.
So does that mean you didn't study as hard? You didn't have to study as hard,
Yeah,
like to pass the Sunan exam and so on, because you knew you were coming here?
Yeah. And then I didn't have a certain dream kind of thing in Korea, so I just wanted to seek another path.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think when we were talking about, the competitiveness and so on, I think a lot of things that people here don't necessarily understand when they meet international students is that very often who you're meeting are really some of the best and the brightest from, the rest of the world, man. And so, you're really, it just shifts when you start seeing things that way. That in all likelihood that you're probably pretty average compared to a lot of students. Hey, can you go to the next slide? So here I just want to have a different conversation about immigration with you. Okay, you're going back to Korea when you graduate,
I want to do a master's degree here in the States.
and then go back.
Probably I don't have a certain plan for it yet, but yeah.
Do you want to get married?
In future, yes, but
You want to have kids?
yeah.
How many kids you want?
Oh, probably 2 to 3.
2 to 3?
Yeah. If I'm rich enough to
All right,
handle
you got
those.
it. All right, you got it. So here's the thing, right? So I want to have a conversation about immigration from a different perspective, because in the United States, we kind of take immigration for granted, and because so many people are interested in coming here, that it's actually a privilege for us. So, Trip, you were saying, like, hey, it took your aunt, was it? 11 years to go from, coming to the United States to actually becoming a citizen, and it seems long and really arduous. But the point being, here in the United States, because so many people do want to come here, we have the choice to pick the exact people who we really want to have come here. I mean, doesn't always work out that way, because obviously a lot of people, we let them in, they come here because their family members are here and so on, so we get our fair share of slackers and so on. But we have the opportunity to really get the best and the brightest, right? And so we have enough. We're never going to be short on immigrants, and we live in a very complex, multicultural society. So can you just, like, Korea compared to the U.S.? Can you just say something about Korea is 95% people of Korean ancestry. Like, when you're in Korea, you're in Korea. And here you're in a very multicultural space. Do you have anything to say about the differences there? They would be useful for people to hear. It's a complicated question.
First thing that I noticed here in the States, you can actually hear a lot of different languages when you just walk around, especially the college town. But in Korea, you won't get a chance to hear like different languages. So, yeah, I think that's the most different thing.
It's like when you're in Korea and you're among Koreans, and when you do hear languages, like, do you feel like immigrants in Korea how integrated do you think they are, or like, do you have a sense of that?
Oh, I've seen a lot of YouTube videos that immigrants in Korea says about life in Korea. They I would say not more than 90% of them, they're saying they feel kind of isolated when they come to Korea, because like Koreans, I would say they are really good at English, but especially listening and writing, but they're kind of shy, and they're not good at, compared to other skills, they're not good at speaking, so it's kind of hard to make Korean friends for immigrants.
And Koreans are coming, and immigrants are coming from all over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they say they feel isolated and really hard to make friends.
Okay, so this is a problem for Korea.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is because Korea, so here are the birth rates. All over the world, birth rates are dropping. And a birth rate has to be 2.1, meaning that every woman in a society, in a nation, has to have 2.1 children in order for that nation to simply reproduce itself. So 2.1. So you start going below 2.1, that eventually, over time, the nation will no longer exist, because if you go far enough, because you're not reproducing, you're not having enough children. And like, when one woman can't have a child, that means some other woman has to have 4.2 children. So so we see birth rates declining all over the world, except, interestingly enough, in Africa, where the birth rates continue to be much higher, 4.0 and 3.0 and higher, and parts of India. But look at the red. So Korea's in the red. Korea has the lowest birth rate in the world. It's like 0.72. So Korea's experiencing a deep crisis. You talk about this all the time in Korea, right?
A lot.
That's why I asked you if you were planning to have kids. I mean, did you know that's why I asked you?
I just assumed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you need to have kids. You need to have a whole bunch, man. You need to have like 8 kids, bro. Like, yeah. So here, go to the next slide. So here's the problem. So if you look at the population pyramid, and this is South Korea, look at 1960, and at the bottom of the triangle, or this pyramid, do you have a, yeah. So at the bottom, this is people 0 to 4 years old, people 5 to 9 years old, etc. So look at this. This is good. This is okay, but you need lots of young people to take care of the old people, because at some point in time, all these people are retired, and they're going to be dependent on the labor of people below them in order to survive. So look here, in 1990, the birth rate starts to shrink. And so now, wait, hang on, we're going to have a problem here, right? When these people start going up. When's that going to be? Okay, 2010. Let's look what happens 2010. Now you got many more older adults. All these people are retired, and this is the workforce that's putting these are folks doing the heavy lifting, but they're taking care of these people, and they're taking care of these people. And then look at 2030 into the future. Look at all these people up here, and there's like fewer and fewer people, and actually this is old because these numbers down here are even more narrow, which means like the folks up here, this is a major crisis. Korea ceases to exist without immigration. So like here in the US, we have this idea that like we have the ability to call in immigrants to help bolster our economy, but you don't have that because you're not a society of immigrants. So you don't know how to live, you don't know how to work with immigrants. You go ahead. Yeah.
And I probably personally think that Korean government is not that friendly to immigrants, especially to when it comes to regulations. It's really complicated for immigrants to live certain amount of time and then even permanently. So a lot of immigrants in Korea, they just stay in Korea for short period and then they have to go back.
Yeah, and they go back.
Yeah.
But the Korean government is changing because it knows it has to change.
Yeah,
so
I
a
hope
lot of
so.
policies are changing. So it's kind of interesting, bro.
I'm also curious on like how you think about Koreans leaving Korea, as in because now Sam was saying you need to have immigrants coming into Korea, but at the same time there's still Koreans leaving Korea as well, right? So like, how do you make sense of that? As in like, you know, your population is declining, but also people are still leaving.
People want to leave, yeah.
I think that's the Koreans leaving Korea. It's my personal opinion. I'm not like representing whole Korean population. So I think it's because of the birth rate. If you see the birth rate, we have in the future we will have a death valley. So we won't have enough workforce. Then, in economic view, one single working force have to support the 3 or 4
Yeah, it's like let's say
retired
3 elderly
people,
retired people.
So I think that's the main reason they leave Korea. And then it's, as I said, regulation is really strict in Korea. So I don't think a lot of immigrants can live permanently in Korea. So I think the population in Korea will be declining.
But
still.
yeah, but listen, but that's going to change. So I want to ask you. This is like the United States. We're used to now living in a multicultural world with people here from all over the United States. You know, like this guy, you go to the East Coast, go to Washington, New York, go to LA, go wherever. It's just people from all over. You're going to have, if Korea is going to survive, you're going to have the same thing. Then when you think about the future of you in Korea, that it's going to have to look more like the United States. How is that? How is that for you as a Korean?
If we will be having a lot of immigrants in Korea, I hope that those immigrants could use a lot of resources in Korea, and then they can learn and do a lot of various businesses in Korea, so that they can contribute to Korean economy.
Yeah, like you.
So yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So, Korean government can take advantages from those immigrants, and immigrants can take advantages from Korean governments and Korea economy. So I think it's a win-win.
Yeah. So Korea. So strangely enough, like Korea has to take a lesson of the playbook from the United States, which is retool a society around it. Either A, get people to have more kids, right? Or B, invest more and more and more and more in robotics, and Korea leads the world in robotics, right? But, or retool around immigration, like a society of immigrants. And that's going to be a big challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're the death belly that I told you, it's inevitable. So
Yeah.
Korean government should try hard to get immigrant labor forces, and then they also need to put a lot of effort in birth rates controls.
So
Yeah.
what's kind of curious is at this time, given what we said earlier, the conversation we have, it's like, in a way, the whole world is going to be competing for the best and the brightest all over the world. Because Koreans are going to be competing for the smartest Chinese, and people from Singapore and people from Japan. And we're competing for those people, including people from Korea. So everybody is competing for the people who are really the best and the brightest and the most hungry to do what they can do. So it's kind of interesting to think about immigration in that way globally, that it's not just one country, it's all countries in a way competing against one another. Yeah. All right, man. Dude. Jay, thanks. What the fuck is wrong with